Hey guys, Ryan here, and it's time to talk about Beast Morphers. I've really held off on doing this because it's more interesting when you can view a toy line retrospectively and see everything that they did and in fact didn't do for it. So here's my top 5 things to note about the Power Rangers Beast Morphers toy line. Number 5, less is more. Now this one's kind of a given, it was largely dictated by the Sentai, but Hasbro did try and flesh it out a bit. They bulked up the roleplay and the in-show battleizer modes to give more toy potential for the line. But there's no denying that with just 5 Rangers and 6 Zords, there's not a lot here for the toy line to adapt over a 2-year period. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that Beast Morphers is one of the smallest Power Ranger toy lines ever. The crucial thing, the elephant in the room, has to be that in Season 2 we didn't get a single Megazord release that was related to Beast Morphers. That is so outlandish. I don't think there's ever been a season of Power Rangers where we were shown Megazords on screen all season and nothing happened on the store shelf. It is a fundamental part of Power Rangers that what you show on screen you release as a toy. Like, this is basic stuff. This is stuff that they tried to get right in the first year of the show. They definitely had the best of intentions, things probably outside of their control factored into the issues with that. But yeah, that Lion Zord should be behind me right now, and it's not. That's the first season in nearly 30 years of Power Rangers where the Megazord isn't released. You kind of have to resolve it to yourself that this was all a hangover from the 2019 Zord retail issues, that Hasbro committed the ultimate own goal in Season 1 with the red and gold triple converting Zords. That one wrong move marked the turning point and ultimately set the template for what was to come. But they surely should have re-released red and gold alongside the Lion in a wave all of their own for Season 2. It just didn't happen. That way everyone who was unable to get red and gold in the first year could have picked them up in the second, and even if they didn't have the auxiliary Zords, there's still enough play potential there. I guess, yeah, you'd then need the auxiliary Zords to combine with any of those triple converters to get your Megazord modes out of it. But I think the real reason Hasbro didn't release the Lion Zord was because it would need to be a bigger toy than any of the other individual Zords, and naturally, given how low retailer take-up was of the existing red and gold triple converters, Hasbro probably would have had to make it even more expensive, and that is a difficult sell. The math just didn't work. I think what happened here was that without a major toy chain like Toys R Us to go to, that meant that the $30 Zords had to wind up in places like Target or Walmart. But because Hasbro changed the model of a lifetime, that being Megazords being sold all as one set, because to make them double and transforming morphing like you see on the show, they cost more, so they had to be sold separately. What this meant though was that pretty much every chain gravitated towards the cheaper double transforming Zords, just a couple dollars between them. But I think that was probably enough for buyers who didn't really understand the line to go, that's fine, we'll take the cheaper ones. That meant pretty much every chain went without red and gold, the linchpins of the season for creating any combination modes. It meant that those of you in America had a real tough time of it, unable to form any of the combinations, whereas we in England luckily have Smith's Toys and they ordered the entire line, which all arrived at the same time. This great discrepancy meant that in Season 2, obviously we had the 2020 situation going on, that Lion Zord just didn't appear. Now, not to create Snyder Cut-esque levels of speculation here, but I can't see Hasbro having not prepped that thing in the background. That thing must be designed, and possibly even at prototype. I don't think it ever made it to distribution. Obviously, we never saw it really referred to properly. All we got was the Beast-X King Ultra Zord electronic mode, non-separating. Who wants that when you're a Power Rangers fan? But yeah, if you look at Beast Morphers Season 2, you see how much that Zord features and how heavily it's leaned on in the toy line as well, with the Morpher, with the special figures, with the roleplay weapons. They were basically banking all of Season 2 on that one Zord. It should have hit retail, and it didn't. Number 4, the Morphers. So for Beast Morphers, we got 3 very different takes of Power Ranger Morpher. The first one, undeniably the star player. The Beast-X Morpher is a fantastic rendition of the Japanese original with added electronics, voice recognition, motion activated effects, and the new key slot, which kind of riffs on Super Mega Force's Ranger Key theme. Also, I do think it's a shame for the electronic morphers that the keys aren't turnable. I think that would have been a really great variation for the original Morpher, especially if turning the key is what caused the shades to pop up. The strap is a really great length where it's actually comfortable to wear, and the volume is really loud. It's really great. In fact, my only quibble is really minor for the first Morpher, and that's that the shades pop up in reverse to how they did in Japan. Japan, I feel like, actually got it right, whereas the way they pop up for the American version just isn't as good. Next we had the Gold and Silver Rangers Blaster Morpher, and it was a Nerf gun. And we've spoke about this before, and I think we're all in agreement that if you like Nerf guns, then you'll like this. And if you don't like Nerf guns, obviously extremely inaccurate to the in-show version, I nearly bought a Power Rangers magazine recently which contained a more screen-accurate looking version of the Morpher. I didn't in the end because I realised that they'd mirror reversed it and the visor and stuff were on the wrong side. But yeah, if you want accuracy, you're going to need the Go Busters Japanese version. And unfortunately, that's a theme that comes over again and again with Beast Morphers. Lastly, we got the electronic, again, Beast-X King Morpher, another brutal reminder of what we didn't get in our Zord line. This one was a show exclusive designed for Power Rangers. It does bring new sounds to the table, just a shame it looks so inaccurate to what we actually saw on screen and is far less interesting than the first one. They also, for some reason, made the strap smaller. Maybe they decided it was too long, too collector friendly in the first release. Anyway, they nixed that idea in the first release, and the recent Dino Fury Morpher seems to have continued that trend. Also, I don't know about you guys, but my Beast-X King Morpher, the electronics seem to have a mind of their own. I've had 3 of this thing now, and they've all had the same problem. They read the keys quite erratically. I didn't know if this was batteries, so I flipped batteries out a few times, but it still happens on occasion. You'll get the villain hijack noises when you insert Ranger keys, for example, or you'll get a medley of the wrong Ranger to the wrong colour key. It's very strange, quite frustrating. Sometimes if you leave it alone, you can get a chorus of sound effects just out of nowhere. This thing is like haunted. Having said that though, when it's right, it's great, and there's more sound effects, more actor likeness, I guess, voices than the original Morpher. If we could take the look and the volume, and I guess the electronics, of that first Morpher and insert the broader range of sound effects from the second Morpher, I think we'd have a perfect toy. Number 3, missing merch. No, I'm not going to go on about the Beast-X King Zord again. We'll just know that's simmering in the background. What I am going to say is that the bag saga was just the start. Revealed at the February 2019 Toy Fair, we saw this really awesome Grid Battle Force backpack. It was cool enough that I think most collectors would have bought one were it ever released. Unfortunately, it never made it. Collectors also missed out in the Lightning collection. We got the red, blue and gold Power Rangers as well as Blaze, but for some reason they never completed the team. We never got the Yellow or Silver Ranger. Were they meant to be like a Comic-Con exclusive? Will we ever see them as like a 2-pack? We just don't know at this stage. I do hope that Hasbro find a way to give us those two just to complete the civilian looking team. It would be great. Also, the fact that the proportions of the Lightning Collection team are so jarringly different to the basic line figures. Although they are the same height, they look extremely different side by side. So yeah, I hope we get them maybe as like a Pulse exclusive or something. Clearly the Beast Morphers Lightning Collection figures were another issue for Hasbro. People just weren't buying them. Or maybe they just overestimated the quantities for the distribution boxes. Maybe they thought they would be more popular than they ended up being. I feel like if Beast Morphers were done by Bandai, we would have gotten a Robot Roxy in the basic figure line, no problem. It's just a very easy repaint. In fact, it's something that I'm still considering doing myself. I bought a second version of Roxy. Just gotta get some purple paint on there, surely. Again, the fact that we got Roxy at all is great, and the fact that her Season 2 upgrade is literally just a colour change means that this is something that you can luckily solve yourself. I remember when I first saw the gold silver Nerf gun thinking, oh that's nice, I wonder when they release the proper one. Obviously they never did, Nerf was all we got, and that's kind of a shame. And also a transforming roleplay weapon would have been nice. We see the Japanese toy line was able to do this really well for the Ranger's main sidearms. I feel like it would have been much more relevant to the show and the theme of Power Rangers and transforming things than the permanent light up effect piece version, which looks really cheap and like something you'd get at a fairground. Number 2, figures. So actually the Beast Morphers basic figures are probably one of the bright sparks of the line. It really felt like Hasbro were doing well at keeping them coming quite steadily throughout most of the 2 years. Posability was definitely better in the Rangers than the villain figures. The villains, we were naturally used to limited articulation, we'd had that even in the Bandai days. But even the ones where we'd expect a bit more articulation, like the foot soldiers, had the limited posability. And Blaze, who in essence was treated like a ranger, was also given the limited legs. I spoke about the figures more at length in their own separate review. It's cool now to have all the ones I want. I never really wanted the Beast-X mode Rangers, but I did buy red so I could get the bow for their combined attack. But because this team only really have their separate weapons, I did enjoy that we were introduced to that as a kind of alternative attack weapon. The weapons I do think started to degrade in Season 2. The paint just wasn't as plentiful in Season 2 as it was on the Season 1 weapons. That is luckily something that you can sort yourself, as of course were the details on the Ranger suits, like the silver zips. I think once you add that detail on yourself, you have a perfectly great set of Rangers. But yeah, they were extremely cheap on those Beast-X Rangers, not even doing the silver sides to their suits. You can, of course, paint that on yourself, and that and the Fury mode red looks really great once you add on more of that screen accurate colouring. So yes, of course, in a sense, I'm very pleased that that detail is moulded there for your own customizing. I think the main thing that stung about the Beast Morphers figures was how luck of the draw the looseness in the limbs was. My Yellow Ranger, of course, being a prime example where it's just far too floppy. You just want better, especially having had Bandai's action heroes for several years before them. Also cool, I have to admit, was that they managed to give us all 4 of the Beast bots and a really good array of the villains. I think we were just missing one in the end, and to be honest, it's the one I would have cut to. And they even managed to surprise us with 2 Monster of the Week style releases. A great integration I have to give them credit for was that they included a key with each figure for use in the electronic morphers. That's really cool. It encouraged this kind of cross promotion across the 2 categories, and I mean, I was going to buy the figures anyway. The keys were a nice added bonus. Now, some of you may know I really love a box set. They did give us very late on a 6-figure box set for the Beast Morphers basic figures, and you got a great range of accessories in this as well, from across more figures than are even included in the set. What you don't get in this set are those Ranger keys, which is a great shame, because if you wanted this box set in place of the individually carded releases, you're never going to get the Ranger keys that way. Also, that box set came way too late. Like, I know we finished the show in England really soon, and that thing wasn't even available until near Thanksgiving, Christmas. But yeah, if that set had been earlier and had included the keys, that's definitely the way I would have gone. And number 1, losing momentum. With Power Rangers, timing isn't everything, but it is a lot. Beast Morphers gave us a real mixed bag of distribution for everyone around the world, and we all seem to be able to find things that others couldn't. The Beast Bots being a great example, especially Steel, but obviously the Zords. Hasbro did kind of introduce a solution, the Ultra Zord box set, which was available from Amazon, and that is a really great release, and I would probably say worth the money. But I would say I think one of Hasbro's key learnings should have been, but doesn't seem to have been, is that you need to be ready to go at selling product from launch. From the minute your toy is being seen in what is effectively your weekly 30-minute toy commercial, otherwise you're losing momentum, not gaining it. At first I thought Hasbro were trying a completely different strategy to Bandai. They were almost trying to build up a desire for the toy line and hoping that by making it available later that would result in action and purchases. But now we're into Dino Fury, we're seeing the same thing happen again, and it's like they've just not learned. Imagine, if you will, being a kid and being shown something every week on TV. You would naturally assume it's available for purchase, but it's not. The best option you've got is to import something kind of old from Japan, or just wait it out and see if you get it under the banner of the show you're actually watching. For all their faults, Bandai were excellent at ensuring things were on the shelf ahead of the premiere, in America usually around Thanksgiving, and that they hit all the major marks of the original air date, so like the Six Ranger stuff appearing right around the time that the Six Ranger was introduced. For Beast Morphers, it just seemed like as the toy line went on, and I suppose you could make some 2020 allowances here, they just seemed to stop caring about what they were trying to sell us and started dropping default stuff and changing the strategy, or rather experimenting with different kinds of products. They of course tied in with the Dino Special a Dino Charge T-Rex action feature Zord in open packaging, as well as a very random 3 Dino Ranger figure pack, all of teams that they currently have no intention of completing in the basic line, as well as 2 versions of the Mighty Morphin Megazord, their first combining take on that, one in an Amazon exclusive complete box and the other as more impulse buy sets. This is all fine to do, but it can't be in place of your mainline stuff. It has to be in addition to. I think you really see the Hasbro panic in those releases. They couldn't rely on the fact that anyone out there had any of the other Zords, so they didn't do the Beast-X King Zord, when really that's fine to play with on its own, and having the other Zords would have been an added bonus. People could have easily picked up the Amazon Ultra Zord box set and an individual Beast-X King Zord and had everything, but that just wasn't an option for us. Beast Morphers had the potential to be so much more than it was. Yes, it was living on borrowed time the first time they had tried adapting a Sentai this late, like 8 years after its Japanese airing, and also the uphill battle, I imagine, of trying to pitch to retailers that you've changed how Megazords worked and that they actually needed to commit to far more products than they used to under the Bandai era. And then of course the hat trick of awful that was 2020 really slowing down any momentum that they might have otherwise gained. Personally, I really appreciated the smaller team approach of Beast Morphers, going down to 5 Rangers for the first time since, Dino Thunder, because Jungle Fury had all the Spirit Rangers going on as well. But I just don't think 5 Rangers and 5 Zords is enough to sustain the show over a period of 2 years. If you think about it, nothing really changed after the halfway point of the first season. If you were to compare that to the first 2 years of Mighty Morphin, where we had 7 Ranger suits, but 10 Rangers wear them, here it felt remarkably slower just to have 4 human Rangers and 1 robot Ranger. Blaze and Roxy were a big missed opportunity, but yeah, that's getting into a different side of Beast Morphers. I've kind of got everything that I need out of the toy line that suits my style of collecting, but yeah, there's a lot of particularly roleplay stuff that I'm leaving on the table that I just don't want. Power Rangers Beast Morphers really trailed off in a similar way to Super Ninja Steel. That ain't good. To the casual outside observer, it almost looks like we've devolved into this rubbish pattern where everything major comes out in the first year and then it just trips up and it's drips and drabs until the show finishes. Now, it's obviously not been long enough that this has been established as a true pattern for the show, but the fact that this exact thing happened during Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel, when obviously the show was going through a completely different behind the scenes change, to again now Beast Morphers Season 2, makes me a little cautious about Dino Fury's second year. Consider back when Power Rangers would regenerate annually, how Bandai managed it, how they were able to fire out everything in time, not really even leaving you much of a breather before moving on to the next incarnation. It's really kind of sad in a way, but I guess good for my wallet, that the pattern has changed so much lately. Don't get me wrong, across the whole line there's these sparks of hope and optimism, like the articulation in the Megazord, or at least the first Megazord, like the soundboard options for the second Morpher actually expanding on the first, like the figures having painted weapons with more colours on than Bandai would ever have given us, but then you're just brought back down to earth in a bit of a funk. You've got loose limbs, you've got an incomplete Zord line, and what almost pains me to say, almost an overall lack of desirability, because the quality is just so hit or miss compared to what we've been used to. So yeah, Hasbro's freshman year. They got some stuff right, they got some stuff wrong. What did you guys think of Beast Morphers? Do let me know in the comments below, and until the next time, see you later.